All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Struggles of Entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Hector Hernandez, and today we have a very lovely guest, Ms. Heather Venechul. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being on. So, as you guys know, I try to bring you the best talent that I can find that you can hear and you can get some best advice. And today we're talking about finances and financial education. And that's what Ms. Heather does. So I'm going to go ahead and have you introduce yourself, Ms. Heather. Let us know what you do and let us know how you do it.
Yeah. So I am the Director of Education for Millennial Wealth Management. We are a fee-only independent financial planning firm. So it's a little bit different than the financial planning that you traditionally think of. We focus on helping millennials regardless of wherever you start. And our goal is to create comprehensive financial plans so we can help you with anything from getting out of debt to retiring at 40. And my role in particular as Director of Education is just to help as many people be financially literate as possible. So I teach an online class that's accessible. My goal is to make it accessible for everyone. And I do speaking events at wellness programs. So I have the opportunity to just get the information out there, help everyone get the basic knowledge that they need to be successful with finances.
Wow, yeah, and I think that's really something that's lacking nowadays. So tell
Right,
me
I'm
why.
making up for the lack of education that we all hopefully maybe should have received earlier on, but we can
Yeah,
get it
well, I
now.
mean, taxes would have been really good to learn how to pay them in school, right? How they worked.
Right, and they never talk about it, so that's what I do. That's my goal.
So tell me,
So.
you focus on millennials. Can you just break down a little bit more why you decided to focus on that generation? And for the audience listening, can you explain what a millennial is?
Yeah. So the millennial generation, I got to think what the ages are nowadays. I think it's like 25 to 45 or something in there. Um, but I wanted to focus on that generation because we didn't get a whole lot of education. Um, culturally, our parents didn't talk about it a whole lot. And we were kind of dealt as a generation a little bit of a challenging hand, right? A lot of millennials have a lot of debt. A lot of millennials came out of school, whether it's high school or college, and found that there weren't a lot of jobs. I mean, generally speaking, the millennials were the generation that came out of school right about the time of the recession. So we were dealt a tough hand, and so we never thought about our finances. And now that things are settling, at least a little bit, we're starting to get our feet on the ground and figure out what we want to do financially. And I think that it's absolutely something that millennials as a generation can recover from. It's an opportunity for growth, but we got to take advantage of it. So hopefully, like I said, my goal is to educate and help people know how to take those first steps, to whether it's to get out of debt or for those a little bit further along the path to figure out how they can actually use their money to build the life that they want to live. It's less traditional, right? One of the things I talk about a lot is, a lot of financial advisors, the vast majority of financial advisors are male and they're over the age of 65, which is great for folks who are in that age range. But it's hard to relate to. I mean, my husband's a great example. He had a financial advisor that was many, many decades older than him and hadn't paid attention to his portfolio because he was so young, it wasn't relevant. And that's really a shame because it's such a great time to get started and grow. So I love working with millennials because I see that opportunity. And I know that I'm a little bit different from the standard stereotype of a financial advisor. And all of us really are millennial wealth management. Kind of trying to turn the system on its head and give it a new fresh look. So
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. So I can see that there's a generational gap of financial education. So I can remember my mom counting her pennies and having the folders. This goes there and this pays that. And I would attribute to once we got a plastic card that we can pay anything with that, we just kind of lost the feel for it. So we feel like it's not there, but then it's there when it's not there.
Right. And when no one talks about those basics and no one gives you that information, it's like, oh, well, I was just talking about credit cards and credit scores the other day on my class, and we were talking about some of the major myths. And when you don't learn about it, you hear all these crazy things like, oh, I have to carry a balance on my credit card to increase my credit score. It's like, well, not really. And we just need to be talking about it. As a society, that's hard for us to do, but it's important and it's good, and it's going to look different. I mean, the other important thing that I always talk about is we're not really talking about retirement anymore. It's financial independence. It's building a life that you want to live. No one's sitting on their, now that folks are living longer, no one's sitting on their deck for, 20
Awkward.
years, yelling at the kids running by, right? They're traveling, they're building businesses, they're starting another career later in life. And we want to plan for that. We want to be excited about that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go take this a little bit down the rabbit hole a little bit deeper. You say financial education, nobody's talking about it. What would be your opinion as far as why nobody's talking about it? Because I totally agree with you. I just want to hear your perspectives.
Yeah, I think it's a cultural thing. I think that, and I speak from personal experience because I was raised in a family that it just was not something you talked about. I think that culturally, the practice is to not talk about how much money you earn. The practice is to not talk about your finances at all with anyone outside of your family, even sometimes in your family, right? And that means that our parents, because they're not talking about what they earned or how they save or what it looks like to have a household budget, we don't ever learn it, right? So it's not passed down from generation to generation. And I think it's so interesting. I think France is a country that the salaries of all the employees is public knowledge. Can you imagine how different that would look if we had that here? Not necessarily that that's better or worse, but it would just be really, really different. And I think that the culture here in the US is, well, you don't want to share how much you're earning because it might be different from the person in the office next to you, and that could have all these crazy implications, and it's advantageous for companies to not really share that, right? And that just kind of breeds this culture of mystery and of silence. And I think the other thing too is there's this expectation that, oh, well, I have to be a millionaire to work with a financial advisor. I have to make a ton of money to work with a financial advisor. And that's not, I mean, that has been true in the past, but my goal is to change that because culturally, like, that's what's set in stone, and that doesn't need to be the case, especially when we lose out on the information passed from generation to generation. We have to have someone else then stepping in and helping out and participating. So.
Yeah, no, you mentioned it's a cultural thing, and obviously you and I have different ethical backgrounds, right? But still, I mean, like that's still a culture thing in my culture as well, right? We don't talk about it. Don't tell anybody how much you make. You just do it. But
right, it's very common in North America. I've talked to folks in
yeah,
Canada too, and they tell me the same thing. Yeah.
yeah. So I also think that going down that rabbit hole again, I think it's the fact that we live in America and we like to consume. And because we like to consume, I can buy it, and as long as I have a little bit, I can buy it, and I'll pay it later, and I can pay it later. I'm from Mexico City, and credit options is not something that's very viable. You either have it or you don't have it, right? And that separates the has and the don't have real quick. And here in America, it's very difficult to separate the has and don't have because everybody can get it.
Yes, yeah, that and like student debt too. And that, I think culturally we've just kind of accepted that exists, and that's another one of those cultural things I hope we can change, because you're right. If there's this idea when you have a credit card that, oh, well, my credit limit is how much I can actually spend, and that's not really the way that it works in the long run. And those credit card companies of course, they want you to do that because then they're racking up the interest that you have to pay on what you couldn't afford in that monthly payment. So that's why I always, when I start talking about finances with folks, I always start with budgets, regardless of where they are, because you have to get your mind around what you, like what you said, what you actually have now, what you actually have month to month, and what is really realistic. Because it's very, our financial industry is very sneaky, and that was one of the things that that's one of the things I love most about our company, was like, how can we be less sneaky? How can we be different? Because the financial industry has kind of a rough reputation because there are things like that, and debt is the kind of the same game. So how can we flip that on its head, and how can we better understand what's really happening and what kind of an impact that has in the long run?
All right. So talk to me. Let's say I'm a millennial. I'm listening to this podcast. I'm driving to my work, and I'm like, oh, I hate my job. I only make $400 a week, and I gotta pay. What would be step one? Well, give me a 3-step process. I know there's no certain procedure, but just give me like, what's 3 things that I can do right now to change my finance situation, or to gain control?
So that's you're already at a great starting point, because you know exactly how much you have coming in, right? So you gave me a number there. That's great. Honestly, most people don't know how much they have even coming in. So that's a great thing to be mindful of. Then the next step is to figure out how much you're actually spending, right? How much is going out month to month. And you could use you can look at a credit card statement, you could look at a budget, you could look at your bank statement, whatever it may be, or if if it's coming in cash and you're keeping it under your mattress, you can check there too, whatever works, right? But once you've got your mind around those are the 2 pieces: how much cash you have coming in and how much cash you have going out. Those are the first 2 things you need to know to then be able to say, how can I make changes? How can I look at this and think about everything I'm spending on? And really break it down. How much are you spending on insurance? Or how much are you spending on housing? How much are you spending on food? Because really all of these things are changeable. What is changeable? How could you shift that? How could you be mindful of that? The goal is to get out of the habit of living paycheck to paycheck, but save up just enough so that you've got a little bit of an emergency fund if something happens, and start to break that cycle. Because once you get through that, it kind of opens up the floodgates for change. But that's the trick, is to know how much you've got coming in, how much you've got going out, and then figure out how you can shift your spending to get out of the cycle of the paycheck to paycheck. Even just 1 paycheck ahead is what we're looking for. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'll figure out what I'm making, and I know that, and then I'll write down what I'm spending, and then I can say, okay, from what I'm spending, what can I not spend on, right? Or where can I invest somewhere else or save it?
Yeah, I mean, there's always something we spend more on than we realize. Every one of us, no matter who we are. When I first built my budget years ago, I had that realization of like, oh, this is how much I spend, even driving to and from work. That's how much car insurance costs. That's how much mileage looks like, and like the wear and tear on your car, things like that. It all kind of adds up. So it's important to start to wrap your head around it.
So as a financial planner and an expert in this field now, do you still keep a budget, a weekly budget, monthly budget, something that you still?
Yeah. Yeah. I love budgeting. I still keep my budget. I got married in the last year, and it has been really fun to look at a budget for 2 people instead of 1, right? Because it instantly gets more complicated. And it's been really fun for me to kind of put myself in the shoes and better understand my clients going through that process as well. Because money is a thing, but there's so much more that goes into it than that. There's communication, there's like your lifestyle, there's your values. All of these things play a weird role in it. And a budget is just one way to check in on that. So yeah, I love my budget. It's pretty complicated, and I've got a business budget and I've got a personal budget, and I've got, all these crazy plans. I love numbers like that. I'm the type of person that when I've got a budget, I'm moving pennies around because I find it fascinating. I know that most people don't live life like that.
Well, really, that was going into my next question. So obviously you love numbers, you love budgeting. Who was Heather in high school? How was Heather in high school? If you were to look now, what would you say?
It's so funny because when I went to school, I hated math. I hated it. I hated, I did go to college for business and I did not want to get a finance degree because I was convinced I was never going to work in finance. It's just not a fit. And after graduation, all of a sudden I got into the real world. I was like, oh no, this is important. And then I saw the impact it could have on my life. And that was what did it for me. You know, when you're in school, I think I struggled to be engaged because I had a hard time tying it to my real experience and what I would actually use day to day. And then, you know, once I got out of school and saw how it actually mattered, it was like, oh, well, there we go. There's the tie-in. That's how that works. And then it became a passion. But gosh, it was not, I mean, it was not my expertise. It was not what I was excited about. It certainly wasn't what drove me. And now I'm like in the process of getting a master's in finance because I love the numbers. I love the way it's kind of beautiful to me the way it all clicks together. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you really learned to love it.
Yeah, but it wasn't necessarily, it was because of the application.
Yeah.
It was because of the way that it applied.
It wasn't necessarily the science behind it. It was how it applies to your life and how you can control it to control your life or to live the life that you want.
Right. I mean, that's what I always say is when we think about personal finance, I love what I do because I work with the people in society that are the game changers. They're the folks that are starting businesses. They're the folks that are working for incredible companies and actually shifting the way we live our life. I'm just helping people sort out one resource that can help them do that. And it can be a powerful resource. It can kind of be our Achilles heel or one of our greatest strengths. But it's just a tool to get to all these other great things that folks are working on and doing.
Yeah, that's great. So how does one get to talk to Heather, get to join Heather's programs, get involved in getting all this set?
Yeah, so we have a great website that walks through all of our, if you're at the point where you really want a one-on-one financial advisor, we do have a service where we're your personal CFO. And our website outlines that really well. It's a great option for folks who have their own business or just kind of have a complicated thing, you know, if you've got a spouse and children, some kind of complicated financial picture, that's an awesome resource. The class I teach, we are just getting it up and running, so it's not on our website quite yet, but I've got a kind of a landing page that I'll share with you all with some information about how to get involved. The course I teach is really designed to give basic financial knowledge so that you can get your feet off the ground. So we walk through budgeting in the first month, and the next month we talk about how to get the right bank, because that does make a big difference. It sounds really boring, but it does have a large impact in the long run. And then every month we kind of build on that. So for those of you who are just getting your feet under the ground or haven't ever really talked or thought about finances before, that's the best place to start, because you'll walk away from that program with like, oh, this is who I am. I know what I'm doing. I can kind of use some of the lingo, and you'll build some confidence. Both of those services, whether it's the personal CFO or the class, are subscription based, so it's really easy to just try it out and see if it's a good fit and see what you learn and how much you grow right off the start. So yeah, I'll provide that. Like I said, my big role is teaching the class and doing any wellness program. So if anyone listening actually wants me to chat at their workplace, I'm happy to do that, whether it's virtual or in person. But I don't actually work one-on-one with clients as their personal CFO, but we've got a couple of advisors who are absolutely able to help you do that. So there'll be resources for you as well.
Nice. So now share with us, please, a story, a feedback that you gotten from somebody that you helped them turn their financial situation around. What's something that they told you, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I love that question. So one of my favorite experiences working with a client was helping them build a debt plan, which we do in the class. And we got to plug in, you plug in all of the debt that you have: credit card, student loan, car debt, house debt, whatever it may be. Normally I don't include houses in debt plans, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, they had their debt plan. We were building it together, and they had just had this assumption that debt was a part of life, right? Their student loan debt was going to follow them from the minute they got out of school until the day they died. And that was just the reality of it. And we got to plug some numbers in and look at what it would look like. We built a budget. So we saw, okay, you've got, an extra $100 a month, let's say, to throw at this. If we do that, what does that look like? How does that impact your debt plan in the long run? Mm-hmm. And I can't recall the specifics now, but whatever amount that they had extra per month that they could put toward debt, paying off credit cards was the first step. They could get out of debt in a couple of years. It was really manageable. And we had a date, like a month and a year, that they would be out of debt. And I just remember the look on their face of like, this doesn't have to be the defining feature of my life. This doesn't have to be so burdensome. And they had that. Then it was followed by the moment of, what would my life look like if I didn't have that credit card bill every month that I was paying off, in addition to what I'm like just trying to afford day to day? Like, that would be huge. That would completely change my monthly finances. It would completely change my trajectory, right? We weren't even talking about retirement because it was so far off the table, but then all of a sudden it was like, oh, financial independence might actually be something that's worth discussing because it's not that far. Once you get out of debt, then all of a sudden they'd have that extra income to think about what else they wanted to do besides paying off debt. So I love moments like that. I love that so much and that's why I focus on this portion of the business, because a lot of the time it's not rocket science. It's not that far away. It can be a lot closer than you think, but you just have to look at it and be thoughtful of it and put some time in to make a plan and be committed to sticking to it. Because, now we're like halfway through working through that debt plan, right? And they're close to being out of debt, which, I mean, what a freeing experience that is. So I love that. I love those little changes that can have big effects. And I love seeing the realization that life can look really different once you tackle some of those essential things. So it's a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. I've taught at a university for a long time, and I love that too. But it's really fun to see the trajectory of both a student, but also an adult change with just little shifts, more mindfulness, more intentionality. Yeah.
So in your college sessions that you're giving, are you focusing more on the real world experience and application of this?
I do, yeah. It's funny, I teach over at CU Boulder as well, and I don't teach any finance classes. I teach intro business classes, like lower division freshman courses, and international business classes. But yes, that's always my goal. Is like, how can we make this tangible? How can we make it applicable? How can it feel real? It's hard to do. But with international business, it's easier, and I'm getting better at it. Coming from that mindset of that student that struggled. And frankly, especially teaching business, so many of the students who are going to be awesome, successful business people are the ones who are probably not
Like,
doing great in school because they're creative. They've got that entrepreneur mind, right? They're outside of the box, and so much of school is following the rules, right? So I love to help them figure out how they can express themselves and build that spirit, even if it's in an environment where there are some rules and I have to give grades.
yeah, well, we still have to play under their system, right? Unfortunately.
Right. But fortunately, I don't have to give any grades in financial foundations. It's all, if you want financial help, we give you all the information and all the tools to do it. It's not so much right way or wrong way, which I love.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's great really focusing again on this generation, on us that weren't taught that. And the fact that you can do it virtually. So how do you use social media to reach these millennials? And I mean, we know we're on social media. How do you personally use it?
Yeah, so we are obviously on Facebook. And we're on LinkedIn where we send out, we use it as an opportunity because it's one of the values of our company. We use it as a place to educate. So we want to provide value, provide education through those channels, help people build some of that financial knowledge and financial savvy. I love to, as our class grows here, we'll be using like Facebook groups to help students in the Financial Foundations course, ask questions and get questions answered. And we'll do our office hours on there to help, because the part of the course is you get to ask questions and have a financial advisor, like we go through and answer them. So it's a great way to connect and to get to know us a little better, for us to get to know all of those going through the class. I love the opportunity to build relationships with people all across the world, really. I mean, the course is designed to be taken by anyone, anywhere on their own schedule. And I love the flexibility of that. We lose that in mainstream traditional education. And I love that we get to be creative in that way and through Financial Foundations. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you're really hitting them where they're at, right? You're attacking your market where the platforms that they use.
Right. I mean, everyone wants to hang out on Facebook anyway. Why not put it to use?
Yeah, no, Facebook groups is a great power. The power of Facebook groups is magical. You can market to an audience and so forth. So that's great. It's great. You guys are on the right tools.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and end it here, Ms. Heather. Do you have any last words for our guests? Please let us know where they can find you. Let us know where we can stalk you. Let us know your websites, and of course, guys, I'm gonna include all that at the bottom of the links and everything else. But we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, our website handle is pretty easy. It's long, but it's simple. It's millennialwealthmanagement.com. Don't be afraid to check in and say hi and let us know if you've got any questions. You can also check us out on Facebook. We're linked to everything on there. And like I said, we use it as an opportunity to educate. So you'll find some interesting stuff on there about what the markets are doing or how you can get involved. And I've written quite a bit on Investopedia too. So that's always a good place to check out as well. But yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and connect with us. We'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have you be involved. I'd love to help educate. Like, let's make everyone financially literate. So
yeah, it's really a change. So Ms. Heather, the last question for you would be, if you had one billboard, what would it say?
Ooh, one billboard. It's kind of my personal mantra. I talk about it a lot with all of my clients and in Financial Foundations and on podcasts like this. I love chatting about how every penny has a purpose.
Oh, nice.
We think that they're small, but they accumulate. That's the thing about finances. And it's true about our lives too. The small changes we make have a big difference. So every penny has a purpose. That's what I'd put on a billboard.
I would get that tattooed. That is a great quote. I would love to see that on a billboard, and I wish our education system would talk more about that. Miss Heather, thank you so much for your time today. Guys, you heard it here first. Go follow her. Go sign up. Go stalk her. She's okay with it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Miss Heather, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.